Thanks for joining us this morning, this gorgeous venue. My name's Daniel Dixon, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the Managing Director of DMK in Australia and have been for the last, I think, 13 years. So we're very excited today, and it's not because it's a launch. We don't get to launch that many things. Our concept is such that it's been here for a lot longer than I have been. It's 40 years young plus, and we don't really get a chance to launch new products all the time, each season, each time a new smell comes out, because that's not our concept. We're about results and saying that you don't have to have bad skin to have DMK, but at the same time, people who go on the DMK path generally don't leave. And so when something like this comes out, to us the acne launch is huge. It's been 3 years in the making, but when you think about it, DMK started by Dene having bad skin himself. And he couldn't be here today, he's actually in Spain at the moment. He's going to do a little cross to us in a moment, just because I think it's important for him to see, or for you to see actually, how passionate he is. And he's the brainchild behind this, and he's 70 years old next year. He hates me saying that, but he's 70 next year and he is still right into it. He just spent 2 weeks out here at the start of August, and yeah, it was an amazing time. So I just want to run you through how today's going to work. Today is not just the launch of 5 new products, it's actually the inclusion into our concept. And our concept is remove, rebuild, protect and maintain. The reason that's important to know is a concept is our philosophy of science, and it's what we stick by in order to get a result for each and every person that comes through. Whether it be acne, scarring, pigmentation, aging, reactive skins, we actually follow the same concept in order to get client satisfaction. Remove and rebuild is the therapist's obligation, protect and maintain is the client's obligation. So if one of those two aren't working properly, the result's probably not going to be there. I've got a couple of horrible stats for you to start off. I'm a big stats man. If one of your parents had acne, you've got a 60% chance of getting it. If both had acne, you've got an 80% chance. Now they're real stats. I'm now going to give you a Daniel Dixon stat. 100% of people don't like having bad skin. So in order for us to know we're going to be in the front of people's minds, it has to be effective. So the reason things take so long to come through for us sometimes, Dene will not produce something unless it's broken. He will not add something to unless it's definitely needed. So with acne, we've been treating acne like many companies around the world with our professional treatments, and then on a home prescriptive basis they'll use benzoyl peroxide. Benzoyl peroxide is fantastic on getting rid of acne, but it's only treating the condition, it's not treating the cause. So today I'm going to walk you through the condition that is acne. I'll talk you through the genesis of acne and how it started. And I might lose a few of you once in a while with some technical terms, but that's okay, because my last slide I'm going to draw it all together on absolute layman's terms, on something we can all relate to. Now we've all had a breakout once in a while. I was saying, knowing that this day was here, I was blessed with a couple the other day. So I jumped in with my Klear, my acne cleanse, and I said, this is great. There should be a video of me here to then show in the night. Okay, so after this I'm going to throw it to a little video from Dene. I'm going to take you through the brief history of acne, the condition that is acne, launch of our new acne revision. Now, acne revision to me is what we do professionally. So we're not talking about professional treatments today because they haven't changed for us. But if you haven't had a DMK treatment, I would encourage you to get one very soon. For those of you who do, just continue it. Because if you've had a DMK treatment, you'll know that once you've had one, seldom does anything else add up. It's very results oriented. And again, you don't have to have bad skin to have it, but it actually allows you to, what we would say, imitate nature for natural results. So it allows your genetic predisposition to come through, and any normal skin anomalies that could pop up, we just keep those under control. Okay, let me pass over to Dene now.
Hello, I'm Dene Montague King. Most of you know me as a botanical chemist for the last 40 years, but I'm also a journalist, just like you are. And as a journalist, and I've written thousands of articles in many magazines around the globe, I took on a lot of companies that were either selling shoddy goods to the profession and to the consumer, or things that weren't really that effective. I've always been very much the consumer's advocate and the professional's advocate. Having said that, when I develop something, I'm obligated to make sure that it works. And for the last 3 years, I've been very concerned about the scourge of acne. Now, acne, of course, has been with the human race for time immemorial, and there's been a lot of approaches to remission of acne. They don't like to use the word cure, and there's very many reasons for the various causes of teenage and onset adult acne. But the basic treatment, even when I was a kid, and I had terrible acne back in the 1950s, yeah, I'm old, it was antibiotics, many of which turn your teeth gray, such as tetracycline, other drugs that dried up your sebaceous glands, only to have other contraindications happen later that were just as bad as the acne itself, including possible scarring. And then, of course, the idea of dry the skin out, dry the oily skin out, which of course just increased sebaceous oil flow in the skin. So it was kind of like a vicious circle. Certainly the modern approach to acne in over-the-counter products is benzoyl peroxide, and benzoyl peroxide does kill P. acnes bacteria. But long-term use also dries skin out and causes other contraindications, and there are some movements in certain countries currently that are actually kind of thinking about a ban or various things like that. It is an over-the-counter drug, and therefore it's very difficult for certain therapists in countries that are not doctors to prescribe or give to their clients. We use benzoyl peroxide for many years for home use, but I always thought that there was a more simplistic, direct, better, natural way that went along with the body's processes to get acne under control and to get rid of it. And finally, we did come up with the new DMK AccuSystem. It's based simply upon removal of congestion, anti-inflammatory activity, kill the P. acnes bacteria, but most of all, get the skin back to its own immune system and its own health. Because acne is hormonally induced in every case, and it can be dealt with in a direct way.
So I'm just going to take you through 5 contributing factors that allow acne to stick around for longer than we want. And also, before I start that, one thing you'll see is there's going to be a lot of repetition. From what Danae said to what I say, it's because it doesn't get outside that box. That's acne, and that's what it is. It hasn't changed. We're not bringing anything new to the table. We're bringing together an approach that is systematically how it should be approached. And we're not just looking at drying up the areas Danae said. We're looking at all these various factors and ticking them off one by one. So let me go through them. Increasing sebum production. Sebum is our own oil. Our own oil is our supreme form of youth. What we want to happen is our oil and water, our sweat and our oil, to combine together to lubricate our skin and act as a protective mechanism. That's called our acid mantle. I've got a whole lot of little animations for you today just to really bring that to the frontal lobe, to show you and to understand exactly how these processes work. There is no miracle and hype in these things. It's just functionality of the skin. After that, you get an abnormal cell turnover. This is called keratin plugging, caused by cells keratinizing too fast. So the skin cells start to rapidly move to the surface at an abnormal rate. You get some leaving before they should be, and some are actually staying as they should be detaching. So you get this abnormal cell division, and eventually you get a compacting down in the follicle. When you get this compaction of the follicle, then your oil tries to come up the follicle and it's blocked and trapped. What do? We squeeze it, we rupture the follicle wall, starts to bleed, and P. acne sets in. We have an impaired acid mantle. So our acid mantle is just what I mentioned before. It's a combination of your oil and water, sebaceous and sudoriferous secretion. Those 2 little glands should be nurtured. A lot of common approaches, let's dry the skin out. Guess what the body is? It's very, very smart. When you take away the oil, what does it produce? More oil. Okay? So that's why common approaches, they will get a very, very short-term result with a long-term trailer. We've got to keep chasing ourselves because now we're fighting our own body's functionality. And P. acne bacteria, the byproducts of P. acne is inflammation, and it stimulates the process of pustule formation. And the last one is the endocrine. The endocrine system is huge in everything we face. All of our skin's conditioned. We live in such a different environment these days, and stress is a greater part of our life. Now, whether it be stress of getting kids to school on time, getting to work on time, getting a deadline, winning the lotto, they're all stresses, and everyone deals with those differently. And the chemicals we don't see released in our body contribute enormously, most of these to acne as well. So if there is such a thing as a normal skin, on your left-hand side, you'll see a nice follicle going down. You've got these hills and valleys there. That's actually the epidermal-dermal junction. So the epidermis is where we start to work topically. The dermis is a lot deeper where they generally do injectables and so on. The follicle goes through, you've got that nice little squishy bit on the side as your sebaceous gland, and the little yellow parts is actually sebum that's produced by the sebaceous gland that flows up the follicle and is supposed to lubricate the skin. You wouldn't believe it, I've got a nice animation of that as well in a second. On the right hand side, you've actually got your block follicle, so you get some ductal plugging. The dead skin cells are blocking that little opening, and you start to get P. acne set in. It starts to get swollen, inflamed and engorged. And again, from another animation you'll see in a moment, we've got an engorgement actually causes to, we want to squeeze it, or that's what the person at home wants to do. They squeeze it and they actually cause P. acnes to be set right in around the follicle. It's a perfect breeding ground for P. acnes, and the sebaceous gland becomes engorged. Here we go. So you see that enlargement on the surface there. This is when we start to get that raised bumps. We get that engorgement, and then eventually it starts to come up, and naturally what we want to do is squeeze it. As we rupture that side, this is where scarring starts to form. Inflammation is huge in acne skins, and what we're trying to do is get the acne under control so we don't have to squeeze it, so the oil flows freely without having to evacuate that follicle. And we really want to try and reduce the amount of inflammation there in the skin. So a number of factors that affect acne as well. It can be passed down through our bloodlines. I mentioned before, one parent, we've got a 60%, two parents, we've got an 80% chance. So you've also got hormonal fluctuations and stress. Let's just stay on stress for a minute. Who likes having bad skin? No one. And it's a funny thing, I love dealing with teenage acne skins because I think they don't know what they don't know, and they think that if they use more things aggressively, if I use it 5 times a day, it's going to be better than using it once a day. They don't understand there's overuse problems, there's product incompatibilities with overuse, and if I scrub my skin enough, it might be revised back to what I'm happy with. So all these things, it's because they are stressed about having a skin they don't love. We see cases all the time of kids who pull themselves out of school, who become social recluses, and it's terrible. I mean, I'm taking to the nth here, but this happens a lot and we see it all the time. For them, it is so difficult for a medication, for a topically applied product to work because their own internal endocrine system is working against them. And this is really a challenge. One thing I do is that before we do anything, I try and get eye contact with them, which is generally hard as well. And I say, look in my eyes and just tell me, do you love having acne? Of course, the answer is no. But until they can actually say and understand, I try and change their thought patterns to say, when you see a new breakout from here on in, let's know that that's up and out, it's gone. I'm bringing it to the surface and I've got to get it up and out. I explain the same analogy. We've all had splinters in our hand or in our foot or something like that. Until we get the splinter out, it stays red and swollen and sore. Once the splinter's out, within a day, it's almost gone. So the analogy of getting that out and evacuating the follicle and giving it a toxic-free environment so no P. acne can live there, when you start bringing them into your treatment program, they start to understand what they have to do at home. It's not squeezing because that's causing acne and inflammation. So don't do that. Leave that to us. We love it. Okay? But properly. But most importantly, it's getting them on board on knowing you see them 1 or 2 hours a week, a fortnight, a month. They're with themselves all day, every day. They'll sit at school like this, picking themselves. And they get these reservoirs that start happening under their skin. They go home, they see it again, they hate it, they're stressed, and it's just a vicious cycle. And this is not refining it down to young kids. I all still get breakouts, I'm sure you all do as well. And they're things we don't like getting. So I do get them to do one thing, and I think this is a bit of reverse psychology. When they see a new breakout, I get them to say, yes, another pimple. Because what I'm trying to do is get them to think that's one's going, and I know where it's up and out. I'm getting rid of that because I'm on my X, Y, and Z. I'm having this treatment here. And it's all a path of getting the skin they want rather than the one they've got. So it's really, really important to work on that mental approach, getting them involved. And I think for us, we're very fortunate. We see a very quick response to acne. The worst case, the quicker response, and then there's always that slowing down. And let me explain why. We have high cell proliferation. We have excess oil production. I just mentioned this before. We aim to normalize that down. So as we normalize it, we're slowing the cell proliferation, we're normalizing the oil production, and everything just comes back on an even kilter rather than being hyper. So that's why things slow down. It's not abnormal. But when you start to explain that, I find the results so much more evident. And I believe in our teaching the professionals, we always say, you need to distill the confidence and knowledge in your client. If they trust you, their hypothalamus gland looks forward to seeing you. Oh, there's that guy who's going to help me. Versus the person, here they go, that mask did nothing last time. It's very, very important to have the confidence in you professionally in order to get their result. And I actually think, I don't have a percentage on this one, I think it's a very, very high percentage of why people get results is when they have the confidence in the person who's delivering that. Medications can cause acne to stick around and also cause acne. Hot and humid climates, we've all been on holidays where everything just bursts up to the surface. Effectively what that is our secretory glands, our oil and water are going crazy because we're trying to cool ourselves down as the natural body's cooling system. And these secretory glands are now expelling more than they normally do, and it's pushing out those little bits of toxins, dead skin cells and debris that's in our follicles. Okay? It's actually not acne, it's a form of congestion, but it can lead to it if we start to pick it. And then irritating cosmetic ingredients. A lot of ingredients like your perfumes, your colours, your colour enhancers, and your flavours, you don't eat this stuff, your scents, fragrances, okay, are quite irritating on the follicles, so that can also cause this. There is no one single ingredient that causes acne to stick around or acne to originate. I mentioned this before, but I think this is really important to touch on, is being stressed out does put our body into a state of housing and enjoying having acne on board. Our dietary habits change, okay, sleeping patterns change, we're continually thinking. And as you're thinking about these things, the adrenal glands are working overtime. Now the adrenal glands we know helps us in the fight and flight, but what they're also doing is releasing a chemical or an ingredient called cortisol. And cortisol does two horrible things. It suppresses the immune system and triggers inflammation. If you've got acne and you're stressed, and your adrenals are going crazy, you definitely don't want that to happen, but you're not in control of it. Okay, so it's very, very important we understand that. The other thing is cells that produce sebum have receptors for stress hormones, and I'll explain that in a little bit later on. Sebum's the only substance that mixes with dead skin cells and bacteria to clog the hair follicles, leading to pimples or acne cysts. So I'm just trying to get this in the front of your mind. Fast oil production, fast cell turnover is a perfect breeding ground for P. acne bacteria. Remember, if I've got a little volcano here and that's our hair shaft, as oil and water comes up the shaft and distributes across the skin, that's all good. Okay, that's our acid mantle. When it's coming at an abnormal rate, it's too much oil, not enough water, we get an impaired acid mantle, which is an impaired barrier function. So that's like going out to the 12 o'clock sun in summer without sunblock. Okay, you've lost your protection. When you lose your protection, our barrier holds in water. So you know those kids are chubby and bouncy, they're full cheeks, and as people get older, it looks like a balloon that's gone down after a 21st birthday party. Okay, devolumized. And as it's devolumized, we're losing our own free water levels. So the more we can keep our free water levels up, the more youthful appearance, it's a natural appearance we have. Hence why I say, don't wait till you're looking old to need the treatments. Start now and you can actually keep that. Danae's a great example. Love him to death, and he lives by the DMK concept. He walks around his house, he's trying new things, he's got a treatment on. Like we did today, I've done live crosses before to educations in different countries where he couldn't be there. And one of the days he even surprised me. We did a live cross and he was laying in his bed in his bathrobe, of course, that DMK here, and he did a treatment on himself and he's laying there talking while the mask is on. That's a challenge. If you ever had one, you'll know what I'm talking about. But he's just full of life, and I think when we see someone like this who's actually at the front leading us, we know why conditions have been around for a long time, but we also know why 40 years in the market, you can't lie for that long. Okay, our stuff works, and that's why people come back. They trust in us. Here's our acid mantle production. We've got our sebaceous glands producing the oil. It's distributing nicely across the epidermis, and that's how it's supposed to happen. Obviously, you don't see this happening, okay, but this is an animation of what actually does take place. And it's very important to remember that is a protective mechanism. So when people say I'm too oily, don't worry. Regulate the oil, normalize the oil, don't strip it away. Because if you strip it away, your body's going to give you more. That's its job. Okay? It's the supreme form of youth. Now, EFA Plus are not tablets we're launching today. They've actually been a part of our repertoire for a long time, but about 5 years ago, Danae was in this very shot at a lab in Mongolia, Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm walking along and I see an interesting berry, I definitely don't bend down and eat one. As scientists have it, they've got this obligation, I think, to find out what it is. And he explains the story as he was walking down this line, going to the lab for a totally unrelated issue. Bends down, starts to chew on the berries. Now, he could have killed over and died. You don't know. This could be poisonous. But anyway, he didn't. Within an hour, he became obsessed about this berry, wondering what it was, where it came from. He had the schematics sent to him, and we now know it as sea buckthorn oil. So sea buckthorn oil, and by the way, it's definitely grown and farmed and housed in the slopes of Mongolia. So he could have got it from California, but that's when it's farmed, and it basically loses all its potency. So he gets it twice a year. The locals get to farm that, and that's where he gets his sea buckthorn oil from. So the reason I'm talking about in acne is our EFA pluses. In actual fact, you should all be on EFA pluses all day, every day for the rest of your life. We all have hair, skin, and nails. Your nails grow like wildfire. Your hair is in phenomenal condition. And your oil, I'm actually very oily. Your oiliness starts to normalize as well. In acne skins, there's been studies showing that acne patients tend to have lower levels of vitamin A circulating in their bloodstream, while those who are acne-free versus those who are acne-free. In addition, people with severe acne also tend to have lower blood levels of vitamin E. Now, there's 190 bioactive substances in sea buckthorn oil, with the highest potency form, which is D-alpha tocopherol, where most other EFAs on the market use a synthetic version of tocopherol. And vitamin E protects vitamin A and essential fatty acids from oxidation in the body cells and prevents breakdown of body tissue. Remembering that acne skins are under attack the whole time, you continually need that repair mechanism to ensure we don't get unnecessary scarring. Carotenoids are our vitamin A's, extremely important in an acne skin. They're antioxidants, which also help to rejuvenate the body by promoting growth of healthy cells and inhibiting the growth of unhealthy ones. It's a real normalizer. Now, vitamin A's have been around for a long time, and some people, it's one of those whiz-bang ingredients at the moment. I just tell you, everyone needs it, but we all have different needs for it. Okay. Vitamin A strengthens the immune system. Acne skins are under attack the whole time. Their immune system is continually compromised. And if they have a poor diet, their gut is generally shot, which is where most of the immune system starts. And so therefore we're pushing the wheelbarrow up the hill, trying to get a result in an inflamed condition. This is a really important part. A component of sea buckthorn oil is beta-sitosterol. It works on inhibiting an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, thereby blocking transformation of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. Now, 5-alpha reductase is a little enzyme that lives in the sebaceous gland, and it's hormonally triggered to stimulate more oil flow. So this is one of those first aha moments where we realize if we can stop or inhibit or regulate the enzyme that's triggering more oil the whole time, the knock-on effects of that will be an environment that P. acnes can't live in and a more normalized acid mantle. So there's two things already from working within, working on instigation or regulation of a process in our body. We can start to normalize the acne. Obviously, you can't just stop it. We can start to control the process and the environment that it wants to live in. Now, I'm not going to go through all these benefits because all you need to do is just use them. EFAs, and you all know we're extremely generous with our giving of DMK to you guys because you're generous in the way you write about us. But if you're not on EFAs, get yourself into the clinic and make sure you get on them. It is one of those musts you'll never get off. And I'll tell you, within 60 days, you'll notice a difference enough to me to never have to talk to you about it again. It's one of those formulations that's so good. And it's a precursor to prostaglandin production. So for any females who have heavy menstrual cycles, irregular menstrual cycles, might get a bit ratty before, I'm very cautious how I say this, before menstrual cycles, it is a fantastic little buffer system. Okay, I've had a number of girls who are curled up for 2 or 3 days prior to their menstrual cycle, and this really allows them to go through that process without the pain. Okay, I'm going to pass back over to Danae in a second to talk through the formulations, but I just want to tell you, with this formulation, there's no magic bullets here. It's not as though we've got a new ingredient. One thing Danae does phenomenally well, he combines ingredients and the way they're delivered and the where they're sourced from to get the most potent outcome, but not necessarily the strongest all the time. because sometimes the strongest can have the most adverse reactions. The fueling of this was knowing that so many people suffer socially, occupationally. I know there's people who go and they get to parties in certain times of the night to make sure they know where the light is so people aren't going to see their skin in its worst light. And basically, and most of the medications on the market or even the topicals look at treating the condition rather than what actually causes it. So we try and peel back the layers, so to speak, to get to the core of the problem and work backwards and saying if we can get the skin in a better functioning environment, acne can't live there.
So the new system, and actually it's kind of an old system in a way because again it's based on our time-honored credo under DMK, remove, rebuild, protect, maintain. But it is basically, I formulated basically for home use. Starts out with the AccuCleanse, which is a cleansing gel. Now, basically a lot of acne cleansers over the years have been based on, as I said before, stripping oil from the skin. And this is not what you do, because when you put the skin into deficit of any of its natural glandular secretions, such as sebaceous oil, it just makes more. What AccuCleanse does is the first step in the removal of congestion, built up dead skin cells, impurities, etc., and does not strip the skin, leaves it very clean and ready for my little secret weapon, AccuMist. Now, AccuMist is unique. Actually, it's never been done before. Who would have ever thought an herbal water would have anything to do with acne? But acne skin is red. Acne skin is inflamed. Acne skin sometimes looks like it's on fire. What puts out fire? Water. But this is not just an ordinary water. It also helps to fend off the P. acnes bacteria in a very unique way. And of course, we recommend the patient or the client using it several times a day. Following that, the skin does have to be kept hydrated. Once the water with its special properties is in the epidermis, it has to be locked in because acne people tend to dry out even though they seem to be oily with pustules. And particularly acne treatments make them feel cracked and dry and painful. So we have to keep that hydration level in. I really don't like the word moisturizer. Many people have heard me say that at lectures around the world over the years. It's kind of a misnomer, but we've used it in this case because what it designates is that the acne skin can be kept supple and moist all day long and not feel uncomfortable. And then, of course, we've had to replace our benzoyl peroxide products based on the over-the-counter drug licensing and regulations around the world. So this is what took me quite a long time to develop, this particular lotion that will help to kill off the P. acnes bacteria in a very direct and natural way. And a bacteria isn't that hard to get rid of if you approach it with the body's immune systems. Last but not least, the little secret weapon. The teenagers will love this. It's a blemish gel. We call it a thermo type of application. And well, my eyes are so bad I can't even see the print here. AccuTherm. Now, you know, that's weird. I thought that name up and I couldn't even remember. It shows you what being 69 pushing 70 can do. AccuTherm is a blemish gel, and the secret weapon part comes in to play when somebody sees a large pustule starting to form and it gets red and hard and inflamed. Sometimes a head of pus appears and they look in the mirror and they say, oh, I've got a date Friday night. I can't possibly go out looking like this. So they go, zack, and pinch it, and of course the infection comes out, spreads, and you've got more acne potential. This guards against that. This is a fantastic secret little weapon. Only use once a day because it is powerful and very active. Any kind of activity in skin that arouses circulation, etc., which this does, and you go out in the sun all the time, it can create a little hyperpigmentation in that spot. So we caution to use it once a day, but that's all that's needed. Usually that pustule, pimple, papule, or zit, as the kids in the USA like to say, is gone within 24 hours, 48 max. So this is the basic new DMK Accu range, and it's meant to help the people all over the world stop their suffering, stop their self-worth issues, and get on with life with a beautiful, clear, and natural skin. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to fly through some of those products again because there's a few little unique points to each formulation. First of all, the AccuCleanse is a sulfur and paraben-free cleanser with salicylic. Now, salicylic is a proven acne formulation, and again, it's on how much you use and what applications it's used in. It is a cleansing agent. We aim to use it to get down into the follicle to bring out any debris that's actually caught in that. That is going to be our potential blocking mechanism, which can cause some congestion, which can then lead to us wanting to pick it, which then leads to acne and the infection setting in. It's a beta hydroxy acid, again from the bark of willow tree. I've mentioned the benefits in acne already, but the reason we're using the salicylic is it penetrates an oil-filled pore and gets right down in there and cleans out that backflushes through the pore and cleans out that dead skin cells and debris that's in there. Now remember, knowing there's so many different levels to acne, if we don't clean that out and if we just start work on the surface only, we're going to have the same thing arise. Remember the splinter story I told you? It's exactly the same scenario. And some of these people have had picking for so long, they've created little reservoirs like the animation I showed you, and all that happens is they evacuate it once in a while, but never in its entirety. This is what salicylic does very, very well. And I think it's important to look at blackheads versus whiteheads. Whiteheads just mean there's an infection present, versus blackheads is trapped oil that can't get through. If you ever extract a blackhead, the top part is dark and the bottom part is clear. That's just your sebum. It's solidified sebum. Generally what happens after that, there's a free-flowing oil, which is your sebum. So it's just like a plug that's stopped there that's not allowing that oil to flow freely. If that's left long enough, congestion will turn to acne. Panthenol, vitamin B, contains antimicrobial properties that are crucial in controlling the growth and spread of bacteria. Rebalances oil production. B5 increases coenzyme A involved in the metabolism and breaking down of sebum. So as we have an excess amount of sebum, we need to be ensuring that our body is engulfing and breaking that back down so it can start to flow freely. Aloe vera greatly reduces swelling, inflammation and redness associated with acne. I said before, a lot of the time the inflammation sticking around for a long period of time, the picking, is what causes the cells to keep turning over fast, which causes what's our cuneiform scarring, which is pitted scarring, or if they heal too fast, it's hypertrophic scarring. Either way, scarring's no good. Biosense is a formulation. We're the first skincare company in the world to use it, probably the last because it's so damn expensive, but I've got a few little stats for you after this on Biosense. It's basically there to help kill off bacteria in an acne skin. It's the most effective multifunctional OTC or over-the-counter antimicrobial product available. Biosense is the only all-natural, organic and botanical antimicrobial product line granted FDA. So the FDA is a huge body in the US that pretty much allows things to be exported and used for consumers. It's approved for registry as a Category 1 OTC for topical antiseptic. It also demonstrates a 0 kill time, which is on contact, of some of the harshest strains of staph. AccuMist is what Danae was saying before, it's the herbal water. Now just before I go on, it's not just a herbal water, it almost sounds alternate. What it is ionized water that penetrates into the skin, can piggyback everything into the skin. The most important thing for an acne skin, they are suffering what's called transepidermal water loss. So they're continually losing water from their skin, which is their own free water levels, which leaves them in a red, angry environment. Okay, and eventually their inflammation will just continue to get worse if they don't hold on to their own free water levels. This can be used a number of times a day, and it helps to reduce down that loss of water in the skin. It's replacing actually, and it's also marrying our acid mantle. So I said before, our oil and water combination creates our acid mantle. This is assisting our water supplementation. Again, salicylic helps to minimize dead skin cell buildup, while purified water laced with Biosense, tea tree extract, castor oil, rosemary and thyme keeps the skin hydrated and acts as a shield against P. acne bacteria. This is a little example of how a spray would penetrate the skin. Most of the sprays topically on the market just sit on the surface. They molecularly cannot get into the skin, where the ionized gets right into the epidermis, and that shaded area there is where we want to work. It doesn't need to go deeper than that. Okay, that's where we need to keep the skin health. Klear, again salicylic acid. We've also got azelamide. It's an inhibitor of 5-alpha reductase. So I said before, 5-alpha reductase is the enzyme that lives in the sebaceous gland and it's hormonally triggered. Again, I don't like my skin, I'm stressed, adrenal overload, cortisol production. These are enough chemical and hormonal triggering to cause 5-alpha reductase to start working. As it starts working, it produces more oil. So all our acne formulations are working on down-regulating or inhibiting the instigation of 5-alpha reductase. Niacinamide, it's a great formulation. Many companies sort of hang their hat on niacinamide. It is fantastic, but it's not the be-all and end-all. For us, we use it for increasing purified oxygen through capillaries. We very much work on flushing through, trying to leave the cells in a toxic-free environment, so we don't like that toxic buildup at a cellular level. Magnesium ascorbyl phosphate is a very expensive form of vitamin C, which is great. It's a free radical scavenger. As we know with vitamin C's, it's also a tyrosinase inhibitor. So people with acne skins, once the acne is under control, they generally deal with two things: scarring or what's called PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Now, they are both byproducts of inflammation. So scarring will come out. If a person is under healing, they'll get cuneiform scarring. Overhealing, hypertrophic scarring. And if their body responds because it's been racing and everything's been hyper, one of the other cells in the epidermal-dermal junction is the melanocyte. The melanocyte is the mother cell of pigmentation. So that's where melanin's produced. Pigmentation flies through to protect us against the sun. In this case, if there's a skin that's hyper, the melanocyte can be stimulated and cause post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation because of a trauma. Niacinamide is also great for helping that, as is magnesium ascorbyl phosphate. Camaric triandin root extract controls the stress hormone flux associated with acne conditions. It's also rich in natural liposome, which is a superior antioxidant, and helps calm down inflammatory conditions. Not everything in inflammatory conditions is about calming down. A lot of it's about moving through. When I talk about the AccuTherm, you'll see that is very stimulating. You put it on a small dab area, a few ingredients, clove, cassia and capsicum, work on flushing that through. It's all about purging of the peripheral circulation and flushing that through rather than letting it go stagnant. Zinc oxide and magnesium ascorbyl phosphate have long been known as the acne supplements. The mineral zinc combined with vitamin C forms a powerful anti-acne duo. Now I'll just say something quickly, there's a thing called channelopathy. You remember back to, I was talking about our EFA supplements. Another reason we should all use them is EFAs are fantastic on working on the cell health, the cell membrane health. The healthier the membrane is, the more receptive our receptors are. So in acne, if they have poor cell health, they don't take up nutrients at a cellular level like they should do. That's called channelopathy. We're aiming to try and get perfect cell health from within levels, so then topically we start to see the benefits of a great functioning cell and cells. AccuMoist, I'm not going to touch on this much. Basically, skins that have acne don't like creams. They don't like oil. But at the same time, they need something to help almost occlude onto the skin without being blocking and without feeling oily. This is just all the nutrients the skin needs during that phase of getting acne. No one should be a long-term AccuMoist, but at the same time, they'll probably like it. Okay? No one should be a long-term AccuMoist. In that process of going from red, inflamed, angry skin, AccuMoist would be their saviour, and it doesn't feel like they got cracked, red, irritated skin. Again, AccuTherm. I said EFAs is something you all must be on. This is something you need to keep in your little travel kit if you do a lot of travelling or a lot of presenting. This is a fantastic overnight success when you get a little pimple that pops up that you just don't want. Now, no pimple pops up that you want. So therefore, this little guy is going to be there. You dab it on the area. It has a strong smell of Chinese cinnamon, which is cassia. The three ingredients, clove, cassia and capsicum, are all known for their purging effects within the skin and natural antibacterial properties. It does sting. It is not as though you're having a reaction to it, but it's a spotted lotion only. Do not smear this on your face because it is too much. It's designed as a spotted lotion. But again, one you'll fall in love with. The reason Danae said don't use it more than once a day is anything too much is too much. So when they say, you can go for the wrinkle-free diet and eat salmon 3 servings a day and you'll have a wrinkle-free face, you'll probably also get irritable bowel syndrome. Okay? Anything in excess is too much. So this is one of those ones, just stick within the parameters once a day and as I said, it'll be a great friend of yours. Another good little ingredient here is Dong Quai. Dong Quai is the herbs contain compounds called coumarins that stimulate blood circulation to the skin and accelerate tissue repair. So what I want to do is take you through now where we started from where we are now. You unintentionally or intentionally now understand what acne is as a condition. There is excess cell proliferation, there is excess oil production. If these two team up, you get a blocking, which we call ductal plugging, and the ductal plugging creates a nice little environment in the follicle for P. acnes to house. Unintentionally then, the client, the patient, or the person squeezes their skin, they'll rupture the follicle wall, it starts to spread, and now we've really got acne. So most approaches are aimed at stripping the oil from the skin, not to allow P. acnes to live. That is your short-term Band-Aid fix. It works, but it's a short-term Band-Aid fix. Most people want acne gone yesterday, so that's why it's been so popular, and it will continue to be popular for a while. But when you're looking at revising skin back to how it should be, and no one's born with acne, okay? So we need to put the skin in an environment where it can perform its best. You now know that our cleansing process is lifting dead skin cells and debris from the follicle, not allowing that dumping down in the hair shaft, causing that ductal plugging. We also use various formulations or ingredients to work on the reduction of 5-alpha reductase to inhibit that to function, because when it does overfunction, it produces more oil. More oil leads to an impaired acid mantle and also to a perfect breeding ground for P. acnes. And the AccuMist, which is a formulation used a number of times a day, this just allows an environment for the skin to live in that can't house P. acnes. So all we're trying to do is get rid of the baddies, but also to evacuate the follicle to ensure that we don't have any nasties there later on. It's just like, I say, putting candles at the bottom of a bath. Okay, they'll float to the surface. Oil floats, fat floats. Okay, so we've got to get that up and out, because sebum deeper down in our follicle is no good to anybody. It needs to be lubricating the surface of our skin, creating our acid mantle with our own oil and our own water. We just need to give it a channel to flow freely. So the Klear collection, or the 5 products in front of you now, is something that an inflamed cystic acne person can utilize straight away. Okay, it's extremely cost effective for them to use. And I'll tell you that in your special edition little cylinder, there is the 3 products: AccuCleanse, AccuClear, and AccuMist. Okay, and AccuMoist and AccuTherm, because we could use that. AccuTherm and AccuMoist, we might be those products. But an inflamed cystic acne person will definitely be those 3. In your bag today, there is a USB with a photo shoot of our product shots, which is on the left-hand side, your right, okay, the silver rim. The other one is what we did just today for you guys, and that's actually an aqua rim for water. They changed the name of the restaurant to the Aqua for us. It was fantastic. But yeah, so they're on there now. If there's any further information you need, Isma is your point of contact. And as of tonight, this presentation will be up on YouTube, so you can watch me again if you want to. Okay. I do want to thank you for your time. I know it is extremely valuable to us. I will encourage you, although you all don't have acne, DMK is one of those concepts and treatment ranges that you don't have to have bad skin to have DMK treatments. But once you do have it, you'll be on your path to realizing your own genetic potential. Okay, we can all pick things with our skin we're not happy with, and it's very, very important that we give the right environment for our skin to live in. So thank you very, very much. If there's any questions, I'm going to be here for a little while. Your patience has been great, and thanks for coming. Is there any questions? So the question was, will the mist go through makeup? You can apply it over the top of makeup. Remembering, if someone uses an oil-based makeup, that is putting a barrier there anyway. It's probably not going to go through that. Okay? But most makeups these days are not oil-based. You can spray that over the surface, and remember, the hair shaft's the delivery system. They'll attach to that, go down nicely, and it can definitely be used. I will say, with any active formulation, when you spray on your face, not in your eyes. Not that it'll do anything bad, but the eyes are a mucous membrane, and anything can irritate. Yeah. Any other questions? Did you like some of the animations? I mean, we use that heavily in our education because therapists need that planted in the front of their mind. You need to be able to see what you're up against. The skin is not one-dimensional. And what you're dealing with is generally within. So it's really good to see those and plant those in your mind, because the more you understand the genesis of acne and where it comes from, the easier it is to treat. I would actually say if I could have an acne clinic, all day, every day I'd treat acne. Most of the professionals run from it. We get our greatest results with acne. We've got a number of girls and guys actually going through case studies at the moment for the new acne line. So those before and afters will also be available soon.